Well, good morning. Thank you for joining me this morning for Heed the Word. I'm not a big sports fan, but I have lived long enough and have lived long enough in Oklahoma to notice a yearly phenomenon. Every year, especially when it comes to the sport of football, you have a game that is known as Bedlam. It is when the beloved OSU Cowboys fight the despised Oklahoma University Sooners. And so they will clash, whether they're in Stillwater or whether they're in Norman, Oklahoma, and they will come together and they will have their Bedlam football game. And despite who wins or loses, and quite honestly, the OU Sooners usually are the ones that win, and OSU is usually considered the underdogs, and it's a great victory when they win. But it seems like every single year, it doesn't matter how many wins the respective coach has accomplished throughout the season. Usually the Bedlam game is at the end of the football season, usually towards the end of the year. And so it doesn't matter how many games the coach has won up until that point. It doesn't matter how much work or how much success he has had up until that point. When the game comes and when the game ends, it seems like every single year there are groups of people on the losing side that begin to call for the termination or the firing of the coach. It doesn't matter if he has won every single game coming up until this point. They will say, he lost this game. It's time to replace him. It's time to move on. And it always intrigues me. It always fascinates me because these same individuals that were singing his praises for the last 5 games of the season, now because as a coach he lost this game, now they're saying he should go. Well, I think about that when I'm in my Bible reading this morning. I'm in 1 Kings chapter 18. It's the great story about Elisha, and it's a great story about him at Mount Carmel and with the prophets of Baal and with the King Ahab and Jezebel and all of these things that are taking place. But what reminds me about the Bedlam football game is what Elisha says here in the passage. He says there in chapter 18 and verse 21, talking to the prophets of Baal, he says, "How long will you go limping between 2 different opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him." What Elijah is saying is that if God is God, then why are you dabbling with following after Baal? And if Baal is God, then why are you dealing with following after God? So it's this idea that whose side are you going to be on? Who are you going to pursue after? See, when Elijah is there and Elijah is dealing with those prophets, he realizes what they had done is they began to dabble into idolatry. They began to dabble in pagan worship, and they wanted to try to play both sides. They wanted to try to straddle the fence, if you will. And Elijah says, no, either you're on one side or the other. The same way it comes when this football game every single year. You'll have people that'll be on one side, a pro coach, for the coach, rah, 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 we love our coach. And then as soon as the game ends and their team loses, then it's, he should be fired. Well, they need to decide which side they're going to be on. Are they going to be for the team? Or are they going to be against the team? Are they going to be for the leadership? Or are they going to be against the leadership? Why are you limping back and forth? And I think sometimes in our Christian life, we have the tendency to do the same thing. We're all for God on Sundays when things are going well, but then as soon as trouble comes or struggles come, all of a sudden we're against God or we are looking to the world. And I wonder if Elijah was here today, if he would tell you and I, quit limping back and forth between our Bibles and Facebook. Quit limping back and forth between the self-help section and the Word of God. Quit limping back and forth between trying to please the world and trying to hold up the holiness of God. Quit limping back and forth trying to pursue your own wants and desires versus pursuing what God has called you in your life. Quit limping back and forth between faithfulness and obedience to God and selfishness and pride in yourself. Elijah calls us out. And he says, if God is God, then follow him. If this world is God, then follow it. But don't try to straddle the fence. And don't try to go back and forth. Don't be that fair weather fan. Don't be that bandwagon fan. Don't be that person that thinks they can have both. If God is God, then follow God. If this world is God, then follow this world. So the question for you this morning is, who are you following? Or are you still trying to limp between one or the other? Father, I thank you for these people. And God, I pray that we might stand firmly for you. We might stand firmly in your truth and on your truth. God, we might stand firmly on your word. And God, we would not be caught limping between one or the other. But Father, that we would be faithful and true to you. God, guide us today, direct us today, bless us today. And we ask all these things in your Son's name. I love you. I'm praying for you. Please let me know if there's any way I can better serve you as your pastor. And I hope, instead of limping, that you'll stand firm for God today.